Howdy folks, Jabberiki here, and welcome to another episode of Film Chums. Joining me as always is my co-host, Viva Becker.
Hello everyone.
Right, so we watched a bunch of live-action movies based on popular anime, and we're going to dissect each one to give you all an idea of what to expect from these kinds of films. So, first of all, Viva, I want to ask you, how much of an anime fan are you?
Casual.
Right, okay. What kind of anime shows do you usually watch?
Shonen.
Ah, interesting. Because that's not the kind of stuff I usually go for. we're gonna be we've got very different tastes, because I tend to go for like the cutesy romantic comedies and slice of life. Shonen is like the last thing I tend to go for. I think the only shonen shows I've watched are Food Wars and My Hero Academia. That's it. Oh, and Dragon Ball Z. So, live-action anime movies are renowned for being pretty poor. What do you think has given them this reputation?
Because all of the ones that are made over here are pretty poor. I don't think that the film industry respects anime or anime fans, so that would probably lead to the quality of the adaptation being pretty poor.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of the Japanese adaptations aren't that great, but you at least get the impression, they read the manga. Yeah, they watched the anime. They at least did the basics before going in.
I do think that the international versions are made with a different film style, but that might be partly their style, partly the resources, and partly when they came out. So,
which is the worst live-action anime movie you've seen?
Ghost in the Shell or Alita Battle Angel. I hated both of those.
So I have to agree. I have to say Ghost in the Shell as well, because it's the film that made me the sleepiest I've ever been in a cinema. I just didn't care. But I was just so bored. Because it's both trying to do its own thing and also just being a shot-for-shot remake. And so, when it does its own thing, it's just this uninspired revenge movie. It's like... So why don't you like Ghost in the Shell?
Because it was a stupid movie. It doesn't respect its source material. It ruined its source material. It doesn't respect the fans. It doesn't really respect anybody watching it. And it just was also a big social justice piece over here in the U.S. when it was coming out. And it just tired me out before it even arrived in theaters with the whole conversation around the casting of the movie. It's not a good sign when you're going into a movie and you're already so tired.
That's the thing. There are a lot of bad anime live action movies out there, but you can at least laugh at how bad they are, or get a little something out of it, or just feel something. But with Ghost in the Shell 2017, it was just emptiness, just this void of emptiness. I know this is a tough question, but out of all the live-action anime movies, which would you say is the best? Like, the closest we've had to a good live-action anime movie?
Probably the Phoenix Wright movie.
We'll definitely get to it.
Now, does that count as an anime movie? I'm not sure. Is it a show? Or
it does, because there's a Phoenix Wright anime, so technically it can count. Plus, the game is very anime style, so we'll count it. Plus, we just want an excuse to talk about the Phoenix Wright anyway. For me, the best live-action anime movie for me would be Detective Pikachu. It's not great.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Come on, James. Do better. Do better.
Listen. It's not great. I will not be one of its most passionate defenders because it has its problems. But when I saw it as a Pokemon fan, I was like, yeah, it gets Pokemon. This is Pokemon to me. I'm like, yeah. And that was enough for me. It was better than I thought it would be. That's what I'm saying. When I went into it, I had the lowest freaking expectations. And then I came out and I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. The first film we're going to talk about is Speed Racer.
As a kid, Speed Racer developed an infatuation with driving, and he looked up to his big brother Rex, the race driver. Unfortunately, Rex died in an accident, leaving Speed without a brother and a hero. Years later, Speed is now a successful racing driver himself, so popular even that he's offered a contract with the wealthy Mr. Royalton. But Speed declines the deal, so Royalton sues the racers for copyright infringement. Speed teams up with a special agent in the mysterious race Rex to take down Royalton, who is under suspicion of crime. But Speed will have to race in the very competition where Rex died, which deeply frightens Pop Racer.
Very product of its time, very early 2000s kid movie, reminded me a lot of the style of Cat in the Hat.
I didn't think of Cat in the Hat, but I get what you mean. I get now you mention it, yeah. It's a weird comparison, but it also makes sense. Very garish, very in your face.
But I didn't hate the movie. I thought it was fine. I might even say that out of the list of ones that we watched, it might have been number 2. I think that it was clear that they actually watched anime.
Yes.
I liked that they took a lot of risks with the style and the production design and the editing and some of the acting choices to try and get that flavor in there. And I think the kid they got for Speed Racer actually does look like the anime version.
Yes, I agree that the Wachowski sisters definitely understand the source material. Like, you can tell this movie was made by a bunch of weebs. You really can. Like, they get it. They get the aesthetic and they love it. However, as visually creative as the movie can be, I found it to be so nauseating to watch. There's just too much going on. It's this constant barrage of spinning camera movements, terrible green screen and cheesy CGI. Kudos to the Wachowskis for putting in this much effort into all the transitions and colourful effects and all that jazz. But it's just too hard on my eyes. There's such a thing as too much imagination, I think. This is what's surprising, is that I should like this film. I should enjoy it. This is a movie about family love, with cheesy effects, and it's based on anime. So the fact that I didn't like it is kind of saying something. And while I will say that Speed's actor looks like Speed, I didn't like his performance. I really didn't like his performance. His acting it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't that very charismatic. And there were a lot of moments where he did a lot of whispering. He whispered a lot of his dialogue, and it was kind of like, what?
I want you to understand how much the CIB appreciates you helping us.
I'm not doing this to help the CIB. I don't know anything about corporate crimes, and honestly, if I did, it wouldn't really matter. I'm doing this because someone's trying to hurt my family, and I'm gonna do everything I can to hurt him back.
Yeah. My question is, would it have been better if there was more to the performance? Because I think it would probably just exacerbate the problem that you were just talking about, where everything is really crazy. Like, they need kind of a boring guy to be the main guy because every other character is insane.
Like a straight man. I guess so, but at the same time, he was so uncharismatic that I just didn't care if he was going to win a race. I really didn't care because I wasn't attached to him. I didn't end up liking him. Yeah, I get what you mean, but at the same time, the original Speed Racer character is kind of crazy himself. So,
I mean, not having actually seen the show, I can't really speak to how close they were to any of the characters or the show. I just saw anime sort of things in the movie, so
it is very close
know.
It's very close in terms of like tone and style. It really is. I'll definitely say that as someone who's actually seen it. My other problem is that there's like scene after scene of exposition dumps in which characters over-explain everything to the point where I just lost interest. Just stand around just going on and on about like the history of the world, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. You've already exhausted me with all these wild, crazy visuals, and now you're like making me try and pay attention to these two characters rambling on and on. I'm like, I enjoyed the racing scenes. I'll admit that. I enjoyed the racing scenes, and I feel like the visuals fit the racing scenes the most. Like when characters were driving and it was all wild, especially in the finale where the Chums go just completely nuts with the psychedelic visuals. But like every other scene when it's just constant characters sliding across the screen and just I want to like it. I really do. And it's weird that I'm the one that doesn't like it or the one that likes it, because this is the kind of film that I like.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what? I was expecting this to be your favorite one, honestly.
The thing is, I do want to rewatch this movie again, because a part of me feels like maybe I'm being too harsh, maybe I missed the point or something. So yeah, I'll admit that, yeah, I would give it another try someday. Because like I said, it's the kind of film I go after. I feel like I'm the audience for this film. So I do want to give it a second chance one day. I will. I definitely will.
Something to keep in mind is that while it's very crazy at some parts, especially at the beginning, I wouldn't say that it fully tips over to bad taste, because they know the parts that are important to slow down and not be throwing in the crazy stuff, and they do. They rein it way back in some of the scenes when he's talking to his different family members, and quieter moments when the characters are actually supposed to be emotionally developing. They rein in all the set design and everything a bit.
Yeah, I'll admit that I really liked those little quiet moments where Speed was talking to Pops and Mom. Those were some of my favourite scenes. I enjoyed those. And like the writing for them was pretty decent, pretty sincere. Those were the only scenes where I was like, oh, yeah, this is nice. Most of the time I was.
What about the one
exhausted.
where he's talking to his brother? I like that one. Yeah, the one where he's like, I'm not your brother, but then it's like, it was his brother the whole time.
Oh, the whole race eggs thing did annoy me. It did annoy me because like the film plants no other red herrings, so for ages you're like, yeah, it's his brother, and all the cameras like, it could be my brother, maybe it's my brother, and then he takes off the mask and says, it's not my brother, it's someone I've never seen before, and you're like, well, he could have gotten plastic surgery, and the end of the film's like, I got plastic surgery today.
I think that would have been a little bit more satisfying if they had made it not be his brother. I was feeling really good up until that point, and it's like, yeah, okay, I mean, I get why they had to go that route, but it would have been so much more satisfying if the film had been going so over the top and so obvious with everything, and then been pushing you so hard for it to be his brother, and you just accepted it because you're like, oh, well, that's the kind of movie it is, and then they flip it around on you, and they're like, haha, it wasn't his brother the whole time. I think that they maybe should have reserved that part until a later film, or for the fans that already know it's his brother or something, because just the reveal that the film tricked you with its own style would have been pretty good.
But yeah, to round up, I wasn't a fan, but I want to be. This is a film that this reminds me of movies that I like to watch.
Yeah, okay, well, to round up, this was the second best movie that we had on the list, and James's taste is a pile of shit, as usual.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to Ace Attorney, which is based on the Phoenix Wright anime franchise, which is made up of an animated series and video games.
Phoenix Wright is a slow-witted and anxious lawyer, but he cares a lot about finding the truth in his cases. When his childhood friend turned courtroom rival Edgeworth is framed for a crime he didn't commit, Phoenix agrees to be Edgeworth's attorney, with help from the perky spirit medium Mia and his best friend Larry. Unfortunately, the prosecutor is Von Karma, who is renowned for being ruthless in court. As the debate for Edgeworth's innocence goes on, we end up going down a rabbit hole into a strange conspiracy.
What did you think of Ace Attorney?
It was fucking amazing. That was quite a ride. I thought it was pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's a perfect movie. There's certain elements that I can really pick out as maybe not the best to be in there, but it was very anime. It was very much like the game. It was very fun and over the top, and it was a good time.
I definitely had a lot of fun with this one. I'm a big fan of the game, and I knew what I was in for. I knew what I was in for because I heard the reputation of the film, so I knew what to expect. And I just embraced that, and I was like, this is so silly. And it knows it's silly, and it has fun with itself. There's a lot of self-awareness. And yeah, it's just even, whether it's being intentionally funny or unintentionally funny, I was laughing. I was laughing a lot. I really was. And I think one of the funniest things is their way around the whole gameplay mechanic where they have those like digital holographic screens. I found it so funny just seeing them trying to, like, their way of like presenting evidence was like, I'm going to throw this giant holographic image of an autopsy report at the prosecutor and go, take that! That just killed me. I was like, yes.
When he whips out the actual screen and then he just literally takes the evidence and he throws it at him. I mean, that's... how can you not like that, you know? What a great send-up of the original material, but in like a loving way. Yeah. You can definitely tell that they love the games, but at the same time, I'll admit there's a lot of things that kind of waters down.
Like Maya and Phoenix's chemistry.
It lacks the whole straight man and bubbly girl dynamic that I really love. Like, they have something there, but it's just not the same to me. I also felt like Von Karma doesn't have that same over-the-top commanding arrogance that makes him fun to hate. Like, I love that in the game, he's so confident that he even outmatches the judge, and he's like, I can do this under a minute. It didn't have those little traits that I really loved. And the film downplays Yana Yogi's insanity act, and Red White is Ozzy Osbourne. There's a lot of changes. I was like, no. But I didn't mind them too much because the film was just so energetic and silly.
Yeah, I say, you know, I would be interested to see the version where they go even more crazy with the stuff, because
definitely, yeah.
That starts to sound like Speed Racer to me, honestly.
But at the same time, you can do something like Speed Racer, but there is a scale. There's a scale to find. I will admit that sometimes it's a little tonally confused as well. Mm-hmm. Like there are moments where it tries to be brooding and dark, but also wants to be cartoony and comedic, and it never really finds a way to naturally do both. Like, the movie really should have leaned more towards the comedy. Like I said, there should be a version where it gets a bit crazier. Because it's hard to take characters in these costumes seriously.
I think that maybe... Well, I didn't notice that as much when I was watching the movie. And part of that is because instead of thinking of it as, like, this is going to be either a story that makes sense and is kind of has darker implications for the world, or this is going to be a crazy comedy movie. It's more like the emotion for the movie is what the fuck, and consistently either the crazy comedy stuff or the darker elements, whenever they pull it out, it's just like, what are you doing? What the fuck?
Yes.
In an enjoyable way, though. I mean, one of the darkest moments, the guy's like ghost wife shows up in the courtroom. I don't know if that was supposed to be dark, but it was a what the fuck moment, and it fit in that way with the other decisions that they made.
I'll agree that it is constant what the fuck. I just feel like there's I think what really put me off was just the lighting. Like, it's so dimly lit. Which definitely helps a lot of the costumes to pop out more. But like, when I look at the backgrounds, I'm like, this looks like Zack Snyder's courtroom or something. It's just so...
I don't know if it's as far as Zack Snyder, but I would agree that it is a little bit darker than the game.
Yeah. That's my point. Is that the game? One of the best things about the game is just how colourful it looks, and that's where a lot of the appeal and charm comes from. So it's just, I don't hate it for having like bleak backgrounds, but it's just a strange choice. Especially when it's so spot on with like costume accuracy, not quality but accuracy, that I'm confused. Well, why didn't you go all the way with like the cinematography and the backgrounds as well? Make them a bit more colourful as well. It's just a bit strange. That's all. I felt like it was sort of trying to go for a Christopher Nolan kind of look sometimes, if you know what I mean. Like the kind of like murky kind of lighting and like the shadows and that kind of stuff, and I don't know why it was going for that. It's really odd.
I think it really helped the way that they decided to dress the background actors. Because I was having a fun time looking at them and just like the most insane, like cheapest, like hilarious costumes I've ever seen. Just a half of a cheap ass wig taped to some guy's head. Funniest freaking thing ever. And I think that maybe if they had put more light on them, then it would have just made all of those costume decisions a little bit. It just wouldn't have worked as well in the frame.
I also noticed that a lot of the events from the game story it's mainly adapting episode 5 of the first game, and a lot of the events have been swapped around and altered. So I felt like a lot of the beats that I loved in the game, it didn't have the same momentum and rhythm. Like the film isn't as smart as the game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But if you go into the film thinking, okay, this is just dumb fun, you're like, whatever, don't care. But like, if you go into the film like, I want this to have the same kind of writing as the game, you're gonna be let down.
I agree. I think that the film itself could have been a little bit snappier, pacing, everything wise. It felt a little bit slower. I don't think anything we watched had super great pacing, honestly.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But it is a string of what the fuck moments. And I think that, I mean, what's the point of taking these properties in anime that are already really good and making a live action version of them? I can't really think of a super good reason beyond, like, what will it look like in live action? And if that's all you want, then this movie gives you what it would look like in live action, so.
I will definitely say that I loved the movie's take on Phoenix Wright. Loved it. Absolutely adored it. He's adorable. I just love that he's this bumbling himbo, but he's got so much passion for justice. I'm like, oh my god, he's so cute. I loved him. The actor did such a brilliant job.
弁護人、尋問お願いします。
張り切ってこう、なるほどくん。
クリスマスイブの午前0時を過ぎていたということは、正確にはクリスマス？
あんたしょうもないこと聞くねんな。
But yeah, all in all, I'd say the Phoenix Wright movie is good fun when you know what you're in for. It's not a very good adaptation in terms of like basing it on the scripting and that kind of stuff, in terms of like gameplay and visuals and energy and especially sense of humor. It's brilliant, and I had a lot of fun. I really did. I was not disappointed by this film. It reached the expectations that I had. So we're now going to move on to the Japanese Death Note movies.
Light Yagami is an intelligent, handsome and athletic student. One day, a strange book falls from the sky called a Death Note. Enter Ryuk the Death God, who explains that writing someone's name in this book causes them to die. The writer just has to know what their target's face looks like. So, tired of how the police are handling criminal cases, Light uses the Death Note to personally execute murderers and serial offenders. He goes by the name of Kira and embraces his new godlike role. Meanwhile, Light's dad, the chief of police, is trying to investigate who Kira could be. He teams up with the eccentric student detective L, who helps the police narrow down their data to find Kira's identity. Light becomes a prime suspect in the case, but he tries his best to throw L off the trail, and even joins the investigation himself. Light wants to find a way to kill L, but doesn't know his name, so he can't write L in the Death Note. Pop star Misa has also developed a fangirl love for Kira, because Light executed the killer of her parents. After Misa gets a Death Note herself, she trades half her life for Death God eyes, which helps her to see her target's names. Misa tracks Light down, not only offering her Death Note, but also a loyal servitude. Light is cautious at first, but agrees to join forces with Misa after learning of her Death God eyes, which he can use to see L's real name. Who will win in this battle of wits, Light or L?
So Viva, what do you think of these movies?
What is the deal with whatever the actor's name is, the one that they get to play Light Yagami.
Tatsuya Fujiwara.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's very well known, and he plays these schoolboy guys that are supposedly exceedingly handsome, and I'm like, is he though? Is he though? I mean, no offense to him, but I'm like, is he though?
Confession. He is one of my celebrity crushes. He's one of my celebrity crushes.
Okay, please explain to me why.
I don't know why. But you gotta remember, what I'm attracted to like unique looking people anyway. So I don't know.
Just say something about him that is like the most exceedingly attractive Japanese schoolboy kind of looking guy you've ever seen, because I just don't see it. They're like, have you seen this man? And the people are like, oh yes, this very nice young man, very handsome too. And I'm like, is he though?
I've seen worse examples where characters are like, oh, he's so gorgeous, or whatever, and then like the main character looks nothing at all like that. You can tell, and it's usually films where the director casts himself as the lead. So I'm like, there's worse examples of that. There really is.
Yeah, but is he though?
Okay. Putting aside whether you find light attractive or not, what did you think of these movies?
I was a little disappointed. I think that the anime is way better. I wouldn't really recommend the movies. I thought that they were better than the Netflix one, but they still weren't very good. And the way that they watered down the events of the anime just kind of took away from a lot of the themes. And unfortunately, I think that they probably just don't have enough time in a movie to get into all that stuff. Because I noticed every Death Note adaptation that we watched was struggling with the slow decline into being evil. That is supposed to be a big part of Light's character. They just don't have enough time in the movie to do the slow decline, which is important to the story, unfortunately.
Well, first of all, I have not seen Death Note since I was a teenager, so I'm not a very good voice of is this a good adaptation? So I can't. I remember parts of the show. I remember like the most memorable parts of the show and stuff like that. So I can't say I remember every episode. Like, it's been a long time since I revisited it, so I can't really say from that angle, but I will say I was genuinely invested in both of these movies. Out of all the films we watched this video, this one kept me the most engaged. I enjoyed every twist and turn. I like seeing Light coming up with ways to dupe the police, or the methods that L took to investigate. But yeah, they do drag. They do definitely drag. And like the confinement scene goes on forever as well. Out of all the scenes, that was the scene I was like, oh, okay, you done? But at the same time, I will say that I went into this with rose-tinted glasses, because this was the first live-action anime movie I ever saw, and I saw it when I was just getting into anime. Like, the birth of Weeb Jamboree, part of that climate was this movie. So when I went into this, I went with a bit of a soft spot, and it took me back to when I really started to love anime. So
I mean,
yeah,
to be fair, I think I went into it with rose-tinted glasses as well, though, because I watched this right after the Netflix version. I had a Death Note night where I watched all of them. And I think literally you could watch any movie after the Netflix one and have rose-tinted glasses about it. I think that there are a couple things they added that I thought were fun. But a lot of the things, the twists and turns, like, I just remember the show too well to be surprised by that kind of stuff. And I remember how they did it in the show with more time.
And it's interesting because, like, your relationship with this movie is kind of like my relationship with the Phoenix Wright movie, because, like, I went into it just after doing a Let's Play on my Twitch. So I knew the event order, and so I got a bit distracted by, like, this is where things are supposed to be. So I get what you mean. I totally get what you mean, why you'd have that kind of perspective. But yeah, watching Netflix's Death Note definitely makes you appreciate this one more.
I don't know exactly what the budget was, but it didn't look like it had a super generous budget.
It looked like a television budget.
Yeah, it did. So I'm impressed that they had the balls to actually show their CG Ryuk in full lighting, which Netflix didn't have the balls to even show in partial lighting.
The thing is that I didn't mind the primitive CGI Shinigami. I didn't mind because it kind of worked for me.
Yeah.
These are demons. These are monsters, and giving them this like weird uncanny valley appearance sort of fit for me. I was like,
yeah. I mean, they're supposed to be gross. They're supposed to look gross.
They're meant to be kind of grotesque, and the way that Ryuk is animated is kind of weird. It's very jolty, and it kind of adds to like the creepiness of his character. Another thing that has always stumped me about these films is why is Snow by Red Hot Chili Peppers the theme song? I've always tried to work out why. Even when I was rewatching, I was like, okay, this time I'm a bit older, so I'm going to try and listen to the lyrics and think, okay, is there something there that maybe the filmmakers thought, oh, this is kind of like our story? It's like, no.
Yeah. My 100% favorite moment watching the movies was the end of the first movie when they have that really cool part change where like L comes out and he has the same chips, and then that song starts playing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I hear the song and I'm like, what the heck? Why?
It's so weird.
This is
so strange.
I mean, I'll take it. It's pretty great, but also, what the heck?
The thing is, I'm a big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, so I'm not complaining, but I'm just puzzled. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I do like they have their own instrumental theme that sometimes plays, particularly at the end of the second movie, that I've always loved. It's called The Last Name. It's that song that has like that drum that's like I can't even do it, but then it's got like shredding guitar and like, oh, it's so good. I love it. And it's got this orchestral brass ensemble in the back. Oh, it's so good. I've actually listened to that song a million times. I love that. And what's kind of annoying though is that both of the Japanese Death Note films don't have that much music, and then when you hear that theme song, you're like, I wish there was more music, because the kind of music the film comes up with, I'm like, ooh, more of this.
The score is pretty disappointing, especially compared to the show.
Yeah, it's definitely and maybe they were thinking, okay, we can't compete with this, but I don't think the compromise to that should be let's barely have music.
Yeah,
because we were saying early on how these films drag on and they're kind of slow, and I feel like the lack of music definitely adds to that. Like, there were moments where the film kind of lost me, and it was because it needed a bit of momentum. Like there were bits of the film that were supposed to be like shockers or like a tense surprise, and there'd be no music, and I'm like, okay. So we're now gonna go on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Let's talk about Netflix.
We're gonna talk about Netflix's Death Note movie. We're going to talk about Netflix's Death Note movie.
Light Turner is a straight-A student who does people's homework for cash, but he also stands up to schoolyard bullies using his intelligence. One day, the Death Note lands next to him. Ryuk appears and encourages him to use it to kill his bully and get revenge on the man who murdered his mum. Light then introduces the Death Note to his crush Mia. The two of them become a romantic couple and use the Death Note to execute criminals around the world, going under the name of Kira. The eccentric student detective L works with the police to find out who L is, and Light is a huge suspect already. So Light uses the Death Note to control L's butler Watari so that he can find out L's real name. We then learn that Mia has been pulling the strings all along, with help from Ryuk, and she only cares about the power that comes with the Death Note.
I cannot do this review until I've vented it out. I need the anger out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm better.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Okay. Like I said before, this film made me appreciate the Japanese Death Note movies even more. And while those films aren't perfect, and they're not exactly remarkable, they at least get the source material right and keep things simple. They at least do the basics. Netflix's Death Note is just embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. It's an insult to the anime and its fans. It's like a Saturday Night Live parody of what American anime adaptations are like. Except it's real. And I don't know why it's real. So what are your problems with this film?
Well,
Where'd you
what
begin?
cannot be a problem with the film? I mean, the themes are extremely simplified and changed a bit, so they don't really line up with the show. Changed significantly. They're not even Japanese. The main guy, I mean, I don't remember what his name is. No offense to him, but like, you know, Light Yagami is supposed to be this like really attractive, popular guy, and I mean, like, is he though? Is he though? No. I mean,
What?
I don't want to be too mean to him because I'm sure he already feels bad enough about being in the movie, but he's not really, you know, he doesn't really fit the role, in my personal opinion. I find it very confusing that they decided to change the names of the characters, but they did not change the main guy's name.
Yeah, it's weird. The thing is, Light in this movie is not Light. They butchered him. He's this angsty teen that the film over-romanticizes and sympathizes with. Light is supposed to be this cunning sociopath who knows how to control people and is popular and attractive, and this is the complete opposite.
I think that the romanticization is actually one of the worst issues with it. I mean, completely beyond it as a movie, beyond it as an adaptation. Even if you had never seen the show and you didn't have any love for it, if you just popped on this movie, the messages and the underlying themes are pretty unhealthy, actually, for anybody just casually watching it. It's very pro murder, I guess, and being edgy, and surprisingly anti asking for consent, which is unusual in this day and age.
Can I kiss you?
You're not supposed to ask.
Yeah.
There's a number of things like that it's like, surprising that you would go this direction.
That what they had for Misa was terrible. Like, Misa is supposed to be this devoted cultist to Light because he avenged her parents. But Mia, as she's called in this film, is just this school cheerleader who is on board with the Death Note straight away and ends up being the secret mastermind. And it's like I get what they're trying to go for. They wanted to make a film where the lead character was the good guy, so they took the bad side of Light and turned it into Mia or some kind of crap.
Maybe they were trying to take Light from the show and make her character that, as in, like, manipulating this person that is romantically interested in the other with their romantic interest. I could see them doing that, like, playing with that idea. Unfortunately, like, it doesn't work because they don't make it subtle. It's pretty obvious from the beginning. There's no slow decline of anything. It's so obvious. It's because you're just like, this guy's stupid.
It's because he's really stupid. But like, it's because Mia is not a character. She's just a manic pixie dream girl. And that's what they're focused on. It's like, we have to fit this trope. We have to make her like this trope. And it becomes so distant from what she could have been. She could have been like a gender bent Light, which would have been interesting. But she's not. She's just this recycled trope that you see in every high school indie movie. Yeah,
the murder flavor.
Yeah.
Pretty much every character was ruined, though. Like, I can't think of one character
totally.
that wasn't ruined.
Yeah. This movie just cherry picks the stuff it likes from the anime and just slaps it on a bunch of, like, high school movie templates. I cannot stand how they handled L. L is my favorite Death Note character, so I was peed off how they handled him. Like, it has all of L's eccentric quirks, but the film also tries to make him cool and brooding, aggressive and vengeful. I mean, when we start seeing L, of all people, running down a street with a gun after light, I'm like, that's not L. That's not L. Have you even watched the anime? Have you even read the manga? The thing is, they might have all created new characters. I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine if they were just like, right, we're going to do our own Death Note movie. We're going to come up with new characters, our own kind of story, but it's set in the Death Note universe. Just do that if you're not that interested in being faithful to these characters.
Yeah, they changed the setting to Seattle, and they changed the names already, so why not say, oh, here's something like, what, Death Note 2, Reemergence of Kira or whatever, and like Ryuk is at it again, I don't know.
It's called the Death Note US. It could have been called Death Note US, a bit like the Funny Games remake. They just called it Funny Games US. Just do that. You'll be fine. Come up with your own idea based around the whole Death Note premise and have fun with it. And then fans would have been way less angry. They really would.
Because you wouldn't be setting up different expectations. And
exactly.
I want to say, first of all, like, I'm not blaming any of the actors that are in it, because it seemed pretty obvious from the writing and all of the different choices that they had written different characters and then they slapped different names on them. So I'm sure they were directed to do different things. I think that just the basic idea for the production was flawed. I think what happened is they took a different script, a completely different thing off the shelf, and then they kind of put names on it. And then they're like, this will be popular.
Yeah, it feels like they just grabbed the like an unsold prom horror movie script and just turned it into a Death Note movie. The thing that annoyed me the most in terms of changes though was just giving the Death Note 64 rules. Why give it this many rules? Because it not only overcomplicates things, because you constantly think, well, okay, is that a rule? Is that not a rule? But it also makes Light's tactics less impressive because the movie can always just drag a rule out of its ass to make him seem smart.
There was a lot of the movie presenting you with rules after something happened to be like, haha, what a twist.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. The thing is, 12 rules are fine. So why have this? There's just no point. The moment they were like, we have 64 rules, I was like, no, you don't! And there's just so many Death Note rules that are part of the universe that they're like, oh, screw it, we're not going to do it. I mean, a good example would be when Light tries to show Ryuk to Mia, he gets her to touch the Death Note. In the original, even in the Japanese films, in as far as I remember, in the anime, you touch the Death Note, you see the freaking Death God. And this movie's like, now you have to own it. You have to be the owner to see the Death God. No, you don't. You don't. It's just those moments were the points where I was like, no, you did not go into this sincerely. You do not care. You do not care about the material.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they care about the material very much.
No. And even when you look at this movie as a standalone film, it's still bad.
Yeah, it's still bad as a standalone.
It's really bad.
Very cliche and very predictable.
It's this boring, pretentious melodrama that's played with recycled high school movie cliches, like the manic pixie dream girl, the school prom finale, the school bullies played by 30-year-olds, and so yeah, this film is just Heathers, but with but dressed up as Death Note.
Also, 64 rules. Where's the rule that says every death has to be completely ridiculously over the top splatty, unless it would be attractive for it to not be splatty? I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense for it to look like this. But the one death where it would make sense for it to be extremely splatty when Mia falls from the fucking great wheel, fine. Not a drop of blood, covered in flowers. I'm like, how did this happen?
While it does annoy me that when Light first writes a name into the book, Ryuko's like, you've got to put how they die down. It's like, no, you don't. If you don't write how they die, they automatically have a heart attack. It's simple. Breathe. Okay. But putting that aside, the death scenes are hilarious. Like, they're nothing like the death scenes in any other version of Death Note. They're just Final Destination deaths.
Not all of them. Not the ones that would... Well, I think at the end maybe they ran out of money, because I think there were a couple where they didn't go really splatty. It's just part of the whole attempt to seem more edgy than it really is. That's it. Or it's the filmmaker going, I like Final Destination, I want to do those kinds of deaths. Not thinking about how the fact that most deaths in Death Note are heart attacks or people getting shot. They are rarely over the top, really silly kind of deaths. Yeah, so were they doing that because they're like, American audiences want this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that probably was. I think they were just trying to target gorehounds.
Now, I don't know where this fits in. You're just going to have to find a place to put it, James. But I grew up in Seattle, and I know what it's like. And I went to school in Seattle, and I know what it's like, and they fucking murdered Seattle. I've been on that fucking pier. I went on the Great Wheel. It's not like that. When the very beginning of the movie, like, the opening scene, they're all out, like, playing sports or whatever, and it starts raining, and everyone's like, ooh-wee, run inside, what's this rain? I'm like, okay. Have these idiots ever been to Seattle? It rains all the time. People just keep playing sports outside when it's raining, okay? Nobody really cares.
But that just adds on to the pile of problems of this movie. And when a film is so bad that you're complaining about how it portrayed the state, it's really gotten to a point where it's really, really bad.
Or just a specific town. Have they ever been to that specific town before? I mean... Listen, it's Washington State. It rains all the time. For some reason, the school board decided to build all the schools California style with big courtyards and shit. So you have to go outside to get classes. Nobody freaking cares.
I will say that the one saving grace for the film will be Willem Dafoe as Ryuk.
Do you think I'm some dog light? You can just snap your fingers and I'll come running?
Did you kill those FBI agents?
What do you think?
I decide who dies. You obey me. Those are the rules.
And who do you think wrote the rules?
Whose side are you on?
There are no sides, only the game.
That's it.
I would say that it's pathetic that Ryuk looks so much like so much shittier than the 2006 one.
He does, yeah. He really does. He looks awful. And he doesn't even look like, if they were trying to go for creepy, it doesn't even look creepy. It just looks weird.
The design is way more bland and less cool than in the anime or the CG one from 2006. The voice performance pretty much just sounds like William Dafoe doing Green Goblin. They don't have the balls to ever show Ryuk in lighting. They don't have the balls to try and animate Ryuk eating an apple, let alone floating. He doesn't even float. He just walks around like a regular dude. I'm like, what? He's walking around like a regular dude?
Yeah.
He has wings. He has wings. You're having him walk around like a regular dude. What happened to the budget? What happened to the budget? Where did it go?
Okay, so I didn't watch Battle Angel. I forgot it was on the list because I'm a dumbass. Viva's watched it, so Viva, can you tell me what you think of Battle Angel?
Battle Angel is quite bad. Pretty much, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know what the writing was like on the show, but the writing on the Battle Angel movie is embarrassingly not good. It sounds like a computer wrote it. You can pretty much go into the movie never having seen it before and talk along with all of the dialogue because it's so standard.
You know more about me than you're saying. Whose body is this? Who am I?
They decided, just like Ghost in the Shell, that they're gonna have this not Japanese actress, but this is me just spinning myself in wild circles here, but they decided, since they got such bad press about trying to CG the eyes to be more Asian, they're like, what we're gonna do is we're gonna CG the eyes so that they're really big, so they look like the drawing. And then people won't notice. And the CG looks disgusting. Alita looks disgusting. A lot of the CG doesn't look very good. To be perfectly honest, they did a really bad job of translating the character designs. Makeup and costume-wise, most of the stuff looks pretty not very good. It just super rubs me the wrong way that they seem to have this, like, not only do they not respect the source material, but they're also like, we're gonna make it better and our version is gonna be so much better than what you've been seeing before. So I actually had a worse time watching it than Death Note, because Death Note, they changed everything, they made them not Japanese, they made everything worse, but it didn't seem like anybody really cared about it. It didn't seem like they thought that it was gonna be a good movie. This one, all those same things, but they thought that they were some hot shit when they were making this movie. It's a mess. It's a bad movie on its own, and it's a bad adaptation.
So would you say you never got used to those giant anime eyes on her?
I mean, I got used to it eventually. I got used to it after, like, the first couple scenes, but I didn't think that I didn't think it was a good decision, especially since none of the other characters have that. I also don't like how all of the casting was so, like, everyone in it was so famous that they don't even that you can't see them as a character anymore. You're just like, oh, it's that famous person. I mean, you've got this little freaking 8-year-old looking girl as the main character. Her name is Battle Angel. She is very small. She's got huge anime eyes. She's got her, like, perky, short, black hair, and then her voice, when it comes out, is like... I'm like, okay, that's just disrespectful.
I want to be a hunter warrior like you.
I think you said that's impossible.
We could be a team.
This is dangerous, dirty work.
I know.
No, you don't.
How was that your choice to make?
How do you think it could have been better?
It could have been better if, first of all, if they had put more time and effort into the effects. The effects were very, like, Hollywood blockbuster, way too smooth, creepy big eyes. They didn't have enough time to make them look good. Pretty bland. Different cast. So maybe a cast that isn't, like, eye-wateringly famous so that you could actually see them as the characters. Maybe, like I said, I don't know what the story was, like, if it was just not a good story because it was based on a cheesy 80s story that was like that. I don't know, but maybe make the story make a little bit more sense, like, they're in this town and everyone speaks different languages and looks different, but this is supposedly like 300 years or something after they all started living together. Like, there's no way they haven't figured out some sort of town language at this point. Make the love interest guy less fucking stupid. Like, it's just her saving the love interest guy so many times, and every time he gets saved, he sneaks away from the hospital and he jumps straight into the furnace or whatever. And he's like, time for me to die. And she's like, no! I'm like, maybe just stop trying to save this guy. I don't know.
So, did the film at least make you curious about seeing the original anime?
No, it didn't make me want to see it because the story was stupid. I would be interested in someone talking to me about the differences between the original anime and the movie and giving me some nuggets that would make me interested in the original anime. But what I was given in the movie was just every single sci-fi movie you've ever seen in the last 10 years. It was just bland, bland, bland. There was nothing interesting that would make me curious.
Okay, so the final film we're going to be talking about in this podcast is the Fullmetal Alchemist film.
After two little boys called Edward and Al lose their mother, they use the power of alchemy to resurrect her. But the spell is a complete disaster. Not only does Edward lose an arm and a leg, but Al's soul has to be sent into a suit of armor. Years later, Edward goes by the name of the Fullmetal Alchemist, because he now has metal limbs. He's teamed up with his brother on a quest to find the legendary Philosopher's Stone, so that mistakes can be fixed. However, the siblings have to work for the state military in order to get things done. Luckily, the brothers are being supported by Winry the mechanic, the genius behind Edward's metal prosthetics. Edward and Al go to meet bio-alchemist Sho Tucker and his daughter May. Tucker tries to help the brothers with their situation, but is also being pressured to deliver a successful chimera experiment to the military before a deadline. In desperation, Tucker uses alchemy to combine his daughter and pet dog into a chimera mutation. Tucker is fired and taken away, leaving the brothers both traumatized and out of luck. Meanwhile, a group of villains named after the deadly sins are trying to find the Philosopher's Stone too. It turns out that they are working with the military general, who wants to use the stone to give life to an army of homunculi mannequins. So Edward and Al have to put aside their quest to stop this new threat.
Okay, so Viva, what did you think of this movie?
Well, I appreciate they were actually Japanese. I think that while they did a good job of adapting the look of the show, you really need to have seen the show to understand what's going on in the movie. They don't really do a very good job of making it a standalone movie. Like, you're going to be pretty lost. You watch the show for sure before you watch the movie. But Netflix was involved, so I feel like they probably had a list of things that they're like, you need to put this in the movie. I mean, that was a pretty long list. I think that they did the best they could given those circumstances. And they did have all the fan favorite moments in the movie. But unfortunately, that meant they had to sacrifice, like, explaining things and developing the emotions that you would need. And they just had to rely on people seeing the show first.
Yeah. For me, I thought this film was just average. Like, I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it, and I was just like, this is fine. Considering the standards, I was just like, the only thing that I'd really point out about it is that it's very melodramatic.
Okay, well, our Fullmetal Alchemist is a pretty melodramatic show.
Oh, it is, definitely, but I feel like it worked way better in anime. You can be more exaggerated in anime, but in live action, it just ends up making the film feel like a Japanese soap opera. Like a J-drama with cosplay.
あるのバカあるのバカエドの気持ちも知らないでエドはねいつだってあんたのことばっか心配して
The big reason for that is they had these big melodramatic moments that ripped from the show that they needed to have. They just didn't have the time to really earn those moments.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Like with the development. And that's just because there's no way they could have done that and not had the movie be like hours and hours long.
Yeah. But I do kind of wish that... I kind of wish they kept a lot of the eccentricities and humor that the anime has, because a lot of the movie takes itself a bit too seriously. And like there are a lot of scenes that are pretty dark and they need that heavy kind of tone. And I get that, but one of the things that I remember loving about Fullmetal Alchemist, because it's been a while, is its lighthearted side, and I like all the quirks that are there.
I think they put in a lot of those things. I remember them
kinda
injecting a lot of the running jokes from the show, like the height thing, the breaking the armor thing, or whatever. What's the name for it? You know what I'm talking about, the arm all the time thing.
Yeah.
The not believing that this tiny guy is the alchemist, like
yeah,
he was being weird is in there.
Yeah, they have things like that, but it's just not the same. It's really not. It's just not the same. Like one of the best things about the anime is just seeing how over the top angry Ed gets when his height is insulted, and how bruised his ego gets. But in this film, he's just like, oh, I'm not that small.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's an issue with all of these live action adaptations, is because a lot of the storytelling is reliant on the heightened animation style, and when you do the adaptation, that goes away.
Definitely gets sterilized, definitely. But I do kind of wish that Edward's actor was a bit more lively. Like, he wasn't bad, but I just feel like he could have done with just a little more energy. Maybe that's just me.
国家錬金術師が軍に逆らうのか。超勘ぶりやがって。大佐はますますいけつかない感じになってきたな。
同期の出世頭だからな。ま、上に立つにはそういう感じも必要なんだ。
あ、だから中佐は出世できないの。おい。
I don't know if that would have gone. I don't know if the director is skilled enough in directing energetic characters for that to work.
Yes.
Because they also handle the direction for Winry, and they were trying to do that, and I don't know if that translated super well. I don't know if her character translated super well.
Yeah, I was a little on the fence about Winry. I think sometimes she was a bit much. a little.
ウィンリーちゃんもこいつの整備士なんかしてたら身が持たないだろ
う。もう江戸くらいですからね、私の作ったオートメール壊すの。
いやだからそれはわざとじゃなくて。
とにかくこれっきりにしてよね。私が不良品作ってるみたいに思われるからさ。
そんなにガミガミ言わなくてもさ。
何よ、私に逆らう気。
Yeah, so I mean the characters where I saw them trying to do that, I don't know if it really worked. I just don't think the director could handle that. So I think if Ed was more, it probably would have not been as good of a movie, honestly.
Maybe. It's because it doesn't have that side to him, I just didn't see Edward. I didn't see Edward there. What do you think of how the film handled the whole Chimera scene, which is renowned for being one of the most disturbing scenes in anime history? So how do you think the film handled that scene in live action?
I'm mad that they weren't brave enough to actually, like, splatty the Chimera right there. They didn't actually show what happened to her. I wish that they had shown it splattied like in the anime, because that was the part that is actually, like, the emotional impact
Yeah,
part.
that's the nail on the coffin for the whole thing, yeah.
I mean, for all we know, she could have been fine. They could have, like, saved her the next day with their amazing alchemy. They could have just carted her off, and then, like, they figured out the whole secret of the stone really fast. Like, she could have been saved. In the show, it was more of like, we couldn't save her because the Chimera can't live for that long. We had to splatty it.
I have mixed feelings, because on the one hand, yes, it definitely dilutes a classic scene and something that has horrified many weebs. But at the same time, I can see why people would like that change. Because
people are weak. They're like, you can't see it happen.
It is.
Netflix is weak. They're like, you can't kill a kid on our show.
It's definitely pandering, but at the same time, if you wanted to heal from the trauma, it now exists, because there's technically a film that sort of hints that it's okay. So, there you go.
I can't really speak to that, because when I saw that part, I wasn't really that invested. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't really moved very much by that part. So I don't really have the same connection with it as a lot of people do. I definitely thought that the CG was impressive, that they got it to look so close to the way it was in the show, considering that they had like a Netflix budget to make the movie. The little girl they got to play the daughter is sickeningly sweet right
that's
there.
What I died inside once they showed her. I was like, she is just so cute. Can we not have does this version not have the Chimera mutation? Does it not have it? Can it not have it? I'm gonna be destroyed seeing this little girl, and then they show the dog. You're like, oh, the dog's just as adorable. But don't. Anime live action films. You like to change stuff, right? You like to alter things. Can Tucker be a good guy in this film, please?
To tell you the truth, I think it would have had more impact if they just used that little girl's regular voice for the dog, like the Chimera, instead of altering it, because the altered one was like, whatever, you know. I mean, I know that's how they did in this show, but since you couldn't have the time to really build up the bond between all these characters, like, a really cheap way to get that would just be using a regular little girl's voice for it. They should have just done that.
What would you say your final thoughts are on Fullmetal Alchemist?
It's fine, but I don't really know who the best audience for it would be, because you're not going to understand what's going on if you haven't seen the show. And if you have seen the show, it's just going to be hitting all the points that you remember. So maybe watch it if you are trying to get someone to watch the show. They have this idea about anime where they don't want to watch it, but they'll watch live action, and you've explained enough about it that they can know what alchemy is at least. Have them watch it.
It's just an hour and a half. It's only is it like 2 hours long, so just like 2 hours of their time, which is just it's a nice
then
sample.
Maybe it'll be intriguing to them, and then they'll want to watch the show, and then they'll stop, being so worried about the anime, because they'll kind of have a taster of what is to come.
I do feel like the live action Fullmetal Alchemist is a good advert for the series. It's like a best of clip show almost. Okay, so those are our thoughts on a bunch of live action anime movies. I think, like I said before, the biggest takeaway I've had from all this is I want to go back and watch these anime shows.
Yeah, there's really no reason to do the live action, in my opinion. There's no point in doing them. They're designed for animation, and they work better in animation.
Well, here's a question. If you were to see one of your favorite anime turn to the live action, which would you pick if you had to?
Food Wars, because I'm a sucker for cooking movies.
I'd be down for that, actually, and I feel like it might happen. It might happen. Be great if it does.
Yeah, I mean, because for that, all you have to do is make the food and make it look good, and then... I mean, at least then it would have that going for it. I could see them messing up the characters. It's a delicate balance with the characters, and I don't know how it would be able to do what it does in the show, where it like teaches you different cooking things each episode, but if the food is there and the food looks good, that's a big part of the show. So
yeah, I could definitely see that. If I'm honest, I've always wanted a live action Digimon movie, but that's just nostalgia speaking.
You know, I've always kind of wanted a live action Avatar movie. I feel like that would just be so cool.
No.
I think it would be really, especially if they got a director who was Asian to handle all the Asian themes. I think that would turn out really well.
Okay, I've been Jamboree.
And I've been Viva Becker. Please tell me in the comments if you want part 2, if there's other live action anime movies that you want us to talk about. And please explain to me why that Light Yagami guy is so amazingly handsome, the actor. I've seen him Battle Royale, I've seen him Death Note. I'm not convinced yet. But let me know what your favorite thing is about this man. James, please put up a picture of his face.
This very handsome face. Anyway,
yes.
Cheerio, folks.
Bye.